Hello everyone, Switch Double here, and if you have noticed, the title of this video is about the coronavirus. Yeah, you heard me right, the coronavirus. For the past almost 2 months now, this virus has been going on. First it was only China, but now it's global wide. Yes, people are freaking out about this virus, like panicking. Even the global cases that infected people are 155,000 people, around 150,000 cases, and almost 6,000 deaths. But you have to not to worry about much of it. But even if that, around almost 75,000 people had been recovered. And you may wonder why I'm talking about this video, about this coronavirus, when you can almost hear about this on media, like newspapers, news on TV, or hearing from other people like that. Yes, but I thought maybe doing a video about this. Even people shouldn't be freaking out. You see, ever since this virus came out in the first place, I was just like, what? Another disease? Because, you see, this is not the only coronavirus that exists. From what I can read online, there is about maybe 17 or at least a dozen different variants of coronavirus. And even 2003, when SARS happened in China, that was also a coronavirus. But no more about that. I know that people are scared about this virus, but even many governments around the world have been taking necessary cautions to make sure that this virus doesn't even spread even further. Even some countries had closed its borders, like Italy has closed its entire country under quarantine, which is a good idea to make sure that so that no other people from Italy spread the virus even further, which is a good idea. Even Norway has closed its borders for 2 weeks. Now Poland and other countries in Europe had closed its borders. Even though that many people have been died so much about this virus itself, I know that people are still getting scared about this new virus itself. I mean, from all the most of that, even with this over almost all that, almost 100,000 people died. But there are still several countries that hasn't had any single deaths. You heard me right. Even there are countries that had many, many cases of disease. Like, for example, even if this disease started for years ago, not years, but months ago, there are, even though that a few countries that hasn't even had any deaths at all, like Finland, Singapore, Israel, Portugal, Iceland, and even a few others, hasn't had any single deaths so far. Even though that many countries only have several, maybe for less than 100 cases. But even if one of the most highest of counts is Italy, Iran, and China. Even though so far Iran has about 12,000, Italy 21,000, and China around 80,000. Even first, about almost a month ago, Sweden only had about only few cases of infected, like less than 10 people. But now, I do say, Sweden had reached its numbers as before. You may think, oh, what about Sweden? So since I live here, what about that? Well, you see, Sweden has around almost 900 cases of infected, but so far only 2 deaths. But those were only elderly people who passed away. And since only people with elderly conditions or those with weak immune system or any other diseases had are more at a risk. Even there were a baby who had this disease as well. The baby herself in China, I think, was later said after 2 weeks was about were allowed to leave the hospital. Even the first case of this new virus in Sweden happened to be a young woman. She came back from a trip from China, but the symptoms didn't start to show only a few days after she came back. At first, she isolated herself in her own apartment. And how do you think about how would she get the food? She solved that by getting the food delivered outside her door, but she later admits to hospital to get treatment. And for treatment, that is nothing we can say about it. Even I'm not any medical trained about this professional fields, even if I'm not a professional, but I still pick up on some pieces of information here and there from newspapers, online, or other people from at my work talk about this. If I had to say, even there are a lot of people who have been treated about this. Like, since there are no cure, no vaccine to this virus. But here's the news though. Since I know that Sweden, UK, United Kingdom, and United States of America has been working on to find a cure. And here is the part though. A Texas company claims they have found a vaccine to this illness or this virus. But here is the thing though. Even if they claim they have found a vaccine, they can't use it yet on people because we don't know if it is safe. They first had to be testing it on animals just to see if it works. Because there can only be two things that I might think could happen. Number one, the vaccine has no effect at all. Number two, the effect from the virus or the vaccine could make it thing a lot worse. And that also though, even the global rate on this entire world, in Europe, the mortality rate is about 3%, but in Iran it is about 7%, which is many scientists a little bit curious about how could that be happen a little bit higher than in Europe? Who knows? But anyways, we had been warned about this. You see, why didn't China? You may also ask yourself, why didn't China make any drastic actions against the virus when it first had been detected? Well, the first few cases might have been only been disguised as an pneumonia or like the flu, because this virus has flu symptoms. And you may ask yourself, how would that be able? How would they be able to discover this new disease? Why didn't they reveal this much later on? Take some protection cautions long before even this could be a global wide disease spreading. Well, I might not be a medical myself, like I said, but I will only guess that since the first symptoms about this disease, but it came out first brought about the public, they didn't know if this was a new entire virus that had just been discovered. They probably didn't know at first this was an entire new virus that had appeared. Many doctors may thought this was just the normal flu, most cases of mild flu, or were severest cases of the flu, but later on determined it was actually a new virus of the corona. I mean, the people in China were still had been much curious about this. No, maybe not curious, but more cautious. Even though that China government apparently have been known about this virus almost a week before they announced it to the public, or at least in that the world also know about it. Even some short times after this virus started spreading across to China, they even put major country cities under quarantine. Like a city of 1 million people were immediately under quarantine. Even provinces, parts of China was under lockdown. And then at first they tried to maintain the virus in China. But there is just a case though. When it first appeared in Wuhan province in China about a month ago, there were even tourists from Europe, America, in that part of China. And they were completely unaware after they just left the country and go back home, that they were unaware that they had been affected by this new type of virus. And that wasn't until after China had admitted in public that there was a new virus. And try to track down every single tourist that had been in China might be easy for those typical countries that had records. But also can we try to find out who these people have been in contact with. But since after this virus was discovered, people have starting to try to take a lot of cautions about this, insulate themselves from the rest of the country, less from their communities, like insulate themselves in their own homes, try to make sure that the virus doesn't spread further. Because only about a few days ago, the British or English, the United Kingdom's Prime Minister, he had said that if people are starting showing some signs of this virus or any signs of the flu or the pneumonia, you should stay home for about a week. So only to make sure that you don't spread it further about this new virus. Even Denmark has closed its borders, but there's not also. Denmark, Norway, I think Italy, and even, I believe, Finland had closed its schools, but Sweden hasn't yet. Even we all are trying to find a way to make sure that we don't spread this virus even further, but even we haven't found any signs of any progress about this vaccine people have been claiming to be. First, there were some scientists in UK who thought that they could have this vaccine already within this summer, but even if that happened true, sure, maybe not, but even if they were having this complete around summer, but they still have to test it on animals before. People may have been started after the bomb almost have been a month, only a few weeks after the virus has became public knowledge. How would people take it? Well, 2 words: panic and freaking out. But most of all, mass panic. Even many other world leaders have been trying to fight to maintain order, peace, and make sure the people are in their each country under control. Try to let them maintain calm. Even if the many people around the world, like Europe or US, there people are literally robbing, but not robbing, but they empty every shelves in stores, from toilet paper, food, any canned food that can try to survive. I mean, people are trying to make sure that they have a lot of food at home so they can stay at home, so they wouldn't have to spread. Is that a necessary precautions? Maybe, but you don't have to freak out. If as long as you make sure you have access to soup, or maybe those bottles with uh, infection soap, like with those with alcohol in it. Make sure you have contact with that one. So make sure that you are. And also, if you start to show any signs of what you think it could be flu or the ammonia, stay at home. Don't go anywhere, please. We don't know what about one of the. Even you don't think you have the flu itself, this new virus, but if you think you just have the normal flu and don't think you can have this new virus, you don't have to want to take this the same risk though. Stay at home. Wait out this virus, or at least your condition, or if your condition gets worse, then you must seek out a medical professional. But if you only have a common cold or just the flu itself, just stay at home. Don't go to work or school. And how will my professionals say about this? Even we have other cases of people global wild that around seven, almost with almost 6,000 people that died so far. My concerned all the people around the world who is listening to this video. There isn't have to be much worries. I mean, sure, you might be worried, freaked out about this virus and what how if you will be affected or your friends or any loved ones like family. But this virus can infect almost anyone. They can infect anyone. But as long as you stay away from much crowded spaces. Since most countries in Europe has been like forbidden larger gatherings like football events or any particular musical events have been forbidden, and even Sweden has put a same forbiddance. Not more than gathering more than 500 people. Even I can understand people freaking out about this virus. Even if you have someone you loved one or perhaps a friend who has been affected by this virus, and either it's at a home isolation or in the hospital. And you may ask, what about me? Am I worried? Well, honestly, I'm not even worried a bit about much about the virus. Even I get updated, informed about it from newspapers or television about news or online. Alright, I admit, I am a bit worried about this. Even I have a few friends who around the world, some in the US, some who lives in a few in UK, and one who lives in somewhere in Southeast Asia. I am worried about them, yes. But as long we all take all safety precautions, we can stay survive about this. But what do I think about gathering food, like empty shelves in store, to make sure that you have food at home? Well, if you don't, if you decide to make a take leave off from work from time and have food at your home, so like try to make sure that you don't want to be around where the cases are. Maybe there, the cases most about in Sweden of about 6 to 900. Believe me, there are a lot of people who are scared here. Even the government has been trying to make sure that these are maintained order and peace, and most of all, to try to contain the virus itself. There were one case of this new flu, and It wasn't that far from where I live. It actually happened in my own hometown where I was born. But unfortunately, though, fortunately, I don't live there anymore. I moved there. I moved away from that town years ago. But still, that town isn't that far from where I live by 25 minutes by car. So you can understand how only distant it is. Still, though, even we don't know much about this virus, people are freaking out. I mean, people are freaking out, but we don't want to be. I mean, we won't want to stay far. I mean, uh, I mean this virus itself are try to make sure that we try to make sure that we all safe. I mean, we don't want to freak out the people just in rather than for. I mean, people are scared, and even though even if my own hometown is about 17 miles from where I live, it seems far, but to me it is about short distance away. But I did actually read that some people in Italy are singing to try to relieve the mood of scariness of this virus. You know, even with all this going on, how do we all should react to this? Scared? Most likely. Look, well, it's normal to be feeling scared all about this. I mean, how would you feel? Like you have someone close to you, a friend, a best friend, or a family member who is having the disease, this virus, and in a hospital in severe case. I cannot even imagine how that's like. But talking about this virus might make be other people more worried about it. But if you more you listen to the stories online and hear more about keep yourself updated about any progress about this vaccine, and also make sure that you always maintain updated about the condition in your own particular home country, where how far the spreads and how many cases there are, or that any progress has been stopping it. I mean, if you just listen to your own to the all to all information about this has been released by the government, by the media. So my advice though is to listen. Make sure that all of you are safe. I could go on front about this for much longer, but I decided not to. So my even if I like I said in the beginning, I'm not a medical professional about this, but my only advice though, as many others have been, is to make sure to avoid large gatherings and try to avoid shaking hands with other people, just as a safety precaution. And also make sure to always wash your hands with soap and water, or perhaps even with those anti hand defection soap, which has all alcohol in it as another safety protocol. And try to avoid any large gatherings if you not have to be necessary. And even if you feel just having a common cold or the flu or the ammonia, just stay at home. But if the condition only get worse or lasts like much longer, then you probably should reach out to your local hospital for any treatment, or perhaps figure out if this is true. Because when this first came out, this virus was started spreading in the rest of Asia, like South Korea, North Korea, and other countries. I read that there was a man in the US. He had that his insurance wouldn't cover entirely. So he had to pay over $3,000 to be tested, and which was just crazy because South Korea, for example, is more opposite. They could take the test and would only take a few minutes, all for free. You didn't have to pay anything. And when the virus itself came to North Korea, how would people react to that? Well, you see, one of the few first cases of infected that came to North Korea were executed. Yeah, you heard me right. They were actually killed because of this. They want to be try to prevent this virus spreading it further. But later on, they made another approach. They actually made send out people to make some health inspections and informing people to wash their hands and try to improve their hygiene by make sure that they wash their hands and everything. But there is just one little small problem. In North Korea, there aren't many much people who has access to to running water in their houses. But that is at least a good thing that they are trying to make sure that the people in North Korea are safe from this virus, which I had to say, I admit, that's a good thing. That they actually try to protect their own people from this virus is a good thing. Even your Trump had said only about was it going to be in 1 or 2 days ago that they are stopping all travels from Europe to United States, and that is also by plane, boats, and that is something that is a good thing though, because try to maintain the virus and not make it even spreading even further, which is a good idea. Even Trump himself has said that the virus will be over within April. But if there's as a virus going on now, it is very, very unlikely it will be over in April like just like that. And Trump has said that he won't take this new vaccine or test it. So I don't know. That was at least from my unread from online, but which is if I don't know if it's true or not. But like I said, make sure, as like I said in only from a moment ago, that make sure wash your hands with only soap and water, and that with hand disinfection soap, which has alcohol in it, to make sure that you don't spread the virus even further, and that you try to stay home if you feel having a cold, flu, or pneumonia, and if the symptoms even getting worse, then right away call for medical attention because you don't want to make sure that you want to be safe. So, if even if I'm not a doctor myself, always make sure that you are safe and try to avoid large gatherings, any case. And but the most another important thing is to always be kept updated about this virus, even from newspapers, online, or perhaps even from the news on TV. Always follow updates because that can also improve could contain some valuable information about all this development, like development of if they have found a true working vaccine. Always make sure you keep yourself updated, even if you hear from a friend or neighbor or someone else, but always maintain your health. Make sure you wash your hands and avoid handshaking from other people just as a precaution. And always wash your hands and try to avoid large gatherings and keep yourself updated about this virus. I mean, we all want to be safe. So, that is all I can say for now about this though. And will we survive this? Yes, we will. And yeah, but yeah, that's all I want to say in this video. So, and this is always, subscribe, leave a comment, and this is always, this is SwitchW over and out. And remember, be calm.